Fred Film Radio, this is Chiara Nicoletti from the 76th Berlinale and with Anthony Chen, who's here in competition to present We're All Strangers.
So, first of all, Anthony, why after, your, debut feature in English and recognized as well, you felt it was about time to close the trilogy, let's say, to end it?
I don't think it was sort of like, after I made those two films, I decided to close the trilogy because I was actually writing this film and developing it during the pandemic. So it was an idea that really started, after I made the second film in the trilogy, and I knew I was going to work with these two actors again. I knew I wanted to write this film. It took some time, but it's always been the plan. And just like the film, life takes time.
Right. How did this trilogy take form? I mean, during these years, along these years, because I read that you weren't planning to do it. It sort of came along, no?
I didn't plan it on the first film. When I made my first film, Ilo Ilo, I casted this boy. We did a very wide casting for many months. We casted, the whole casting process lasted like 10 months. We saw like 8,000 children, and we had workshops over that long period of time. From 8,000, about 1,000 was got into the auditions, and from the auditions we selected like 300 boys, and over like 10 months we were eliminating all these boys before we found Chiara, who I think at the start I had no idea that I was going to work with him for the next 13 years, and when I was making my second film, Wet Season, I was doing the same process again. I was looking for a 16-year-old boy. We went to a lot of secondary schools. We saw hundreds of kids. We did workshops again. I wasn't convinced, and I sort of rediscovered him on Instagram. And I got my casting director to bring him in, and he did, a few exercises, and we just knew, just in 5 minutes you knew like it was him. And so when I made that second film with him, I knew already, why are you constantly searching for something new when this might be the destiny? So I decided I'm going to work with the same two actors. On the first film, Junyang and Chiara, they played mother and son. On the second film, teacher and student, and now, it's a new combination of characters. They're leading the film again, but I think a lot of times, filmmakers, we're there sort of searching. We're going on this journey searching for a film, right? But sometimes it's cinema that finds you. And
like that.
And I think it's this beautiful thing where it's when life and cinema collide.
And I was reading that you said that this three films sort of walked you, accompanied you through moments in your life, very important moment, also as a son, as a father, as a husband. So would you tell me more about this?
I think what is fascinating is that I made these films literally in 3 periods of my life. I made Ilo Ilo when I was in my 20s. I made Wet Season in my 30s. I made this, now I'm in my early 40s. I made this in my 40s. So I was a young man, I was a son, and now I'm a father, I'm a husband, I've got a 7-year-old kid, I've gone through marriage, I've gone through, as a young boy, like breakups and naivety and irresponsibility and all of that, and I don't think it would be, I wouldn't deny that, so much of the film carries so much about my own personal emotions, my own coming of age, from a boy into a man. In fact, I would say like all my films are personal that way. I just don't know another way to make my films. Which is why I find filmmaking incredibly painful an experience.
Like therapy in a way.
Yeah,
for you?
because a lot of times, when you're so connected to the subject, when you're so connected to the characters, I mean, I'll be filming a scene, and like it hits me in such a deep way that I start crying, and you wonder like why. Which is why I always believe when you watch my work, if the emotion speaks to you or you connect like deeply with it, it's because there's so much of myself that I'm giving as well. Like it's just so raw and it's so honest. It's me sort of bearing my heart, bearing my soul.
I love that. I really needed this film, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Grazie, Anthony.
Thank you.
Now I would like to thank Anthony Chen, director of We're All Strangers, screening at the 76th Berlinale in competition, and this is Chiara Nicoletti for Fred, the Festival Insider.